All right, well, looks like I'll get this one underway then. This will be the Finance and Audit Committee meeting, regularly scheduled for January 27, 2022. Call the meeting to order. Right now would be the opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the committee's scope, including items on or not on the agenda.
I did not have anybody reach out beforehand. Art, if you could unmute the attendees and give everyone a chance to speak if they so wish.
Yes. Let's see. Attendees, you now have the ability to unmute yourselves if there's anything you would like to present to the board at this time. Apparently not.
All right, moving on. We have a consent calendar. Do I have which pleasure with that, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move approval of our consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we got a first and second. Would you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Director Jones?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
And Wood?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next on the agenda is our action item. It's the election of officers. Ms. Pania.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Finance and Audit Committee for 2022. I'd like to thank our chair, Director Orzali. Unfortunately, he's having some connection issues. And then our vice chair, Director Wood, for the 2021 year that they served. Tonight, we will be choosing the new chair and new vice chair for the 2022 committee. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know
Madam
you're all
Clerk,
seasoned members.
I don't have any questions, Madam Clerk, but I think our present leadership more than suffices. And if Ted and Randy want to switch places, that's okay with me. I'll give that discretion to my fellow director, Ted Wood.
I think we leave it as is. Randy does a great job chairing.
Right, and he's not here. I make a motion. I make a motion to continue our chair and vice chair into this new year.
Okay. I'll second.
All right. All right. Delman, you good with that?
Yes, I am.
All right. Then we have a first and a second. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Director Jones?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
And Wood?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. All fun aside, we now move on to the presentation items, get to the serious business with CFO O'Toole. The floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening and thank you and congratulations, Director Wood. Let me, I'm going to share a screen here. So give me a moment here. And I'll be showing a PowerPoint of which is covering the bi-monthly fiscal report, which you previously received. So let's see if I can find it. There we go. Okay, so this is the Finance and Audit Committee bi-monthly fiscal report covering the first 4 months of the fiscal year through October 31, 2021. And let's see. I want to note too that this presentation is drawn from that Finance Committee report you received. And because of the December holidays, we typically skip a finance meeting in December, as you know, which means that this bi-monthly report, which would typically be in December, is now in January. That also means you don't have to wait as long for your next report. In February, just next month, we'll get the report through December. So the cash balance trends as of October 31, 2021. This slide is our cash balance trends relative to last year. That's the red line is last year. The trend follows a historical pattern where we spend into the dry period and where the borrowing from the county is necessary until property tax revenues come in, with the first wave in December and second wave in April with property tax payments. And main waves, I should say. And you can see that after August, we were back on target at the end of, and then back on target at the end of September, but then we've slipped in our cash balance as of the end of October. That difference is about 10.1 million. That cash flow difference is made up of the pension UAL, that unfunded accrued liability, was 5 million larger than last year, which dented our cash balance there. We spent down developer impact fees on Station 68, more than $1 million there. And then the intergovernmental transfer funds, we paid DHCS funds for that, which we have not received yet, or a little behind schedule. So anticipate receiving those, but that also offset us by a few million timing wise for that end of October report. So moving on to the next slide. And by the way, I can only see the slides I'm presenting. So if you want to interrupt me, just speak up and I'll hear you. Here we are on the general operating fund total revenues. This slide shows us that we're still tracking closely with the expected general fund revenues after 4 months, with significant revenue months still to come, as we said. There's 3 lines there sort of bundled together, but as you can see there, the blue is the budget, the green is prior year, and red is actuals. Only 7% of annual revenues were received as of the end of October, for the reasons previously stated, having to do with property tax revenues. So we're going to move into a layer deeper on revenue, which is medic cost revenue. And again, the blue is budgeted, and green is prior year, and red is actual. You can see we're following closely. The number at the end of October was almost 15 million. Total anticipated revenues for the year is 42.9 million. We're slightly ahead of schedule. That at the end of October, we were at 34.9%. So that's more than 33%, which is a third of the year. So trending a little bit upwards. Overall medic cost recoveries are 11.6% over last year's revenues after 4 months. Presumably there was still some COVID quarantining and that suppressed ambulance transports last year and the year before. So I should say the year before in 2020. Next slide. General operating funds. And moving to the expenditure side. After 4 months, general fund expenditures relative to budget were close to the target, slightly ahead of last year. See the number there, 93 million. Spending remained under budget, was 1.9 million less than budget, and 5.1 million more than the prior year after the 4-month point. It's too early to say, but the tightening of actual expenditures with the budget forecast, narrowing down to 1.9 million, may suggest pressures to come and adjustments in the mid-year, but we'll be talking more about that next month. There's more to say anyway. Moving on to salary and benefit expense. You can see that after 4 months, we're still tracking closely with the budget, but slightly over. Employee wages are slightly ahead, mainly because of constant staffing. Over time is up significantly. Again, after just a third of the year, 33% of the fiscal year, constant staffing had consumed 52.8% of the budget, of their budget, of the constant staffing budget, or 9.4 million of the 17.9 allocated. Some of this is due to deployments, of course, which happened over the summer, but also attributable to staffing shortages and increased sick leave and COVID and deferral of a fire academy class. Salaries and benefits are about 4.8% above where they were after 4 months last year. Next slide to talk about reserves. We're following a course not unlike last year, well into the dry period. Reserves at the end of October were slightly lower, 3.9 million below where we were last year. That's the red line again. You can see that in the table below the blue box, how reserves are expected to change over the course of the year as our major revenue source comes in 2 waves. And we finish up at 14.3% of general operating fund reserves. Next slide, going into CERT. This is our California Employers Retirement Benefit Fund, Benefit Trust, I should say, CERT. This is not a cash fund, and monies in this trust can only be used to pay future retiree benefits or future retiree health premiums. This is a priority focus of the boards, and we wanted to share the fund performance presented here. You can see the green share is getting bigger. We now have a balance of about 74 million. 74 million in contributions made over our participation in the CERT. And while both the contributions and earnings have grown in recent years, it's always important to keep in mind that at least for right now, the current liability is 243.9 million. So we're at about 30% funded on that liability today. So moving into our takeaways for the from this presentation, 4 points there. I'll cover the again, cash balance dipped significantly after 4 months, mostly due to pension costs and timing of receivables. Finance will have more to report on that next month. Let's see, spending remained under budget, and the gap tightened to just under 1.9 million. So we're still under, but the at the end of August, it was just a 1.9 million difference. Third bullet there, salaries and benefits are trending ahead of the budget, particularly in constant staffing overtime. And the last bullet there is general operating funds reserves is slightly lower than last year by 3.9 million. The difference is so small that we haven't reported the sort of the wet as opposed to the dry period. So it's a little early to make meaningful comparisons on that, but it's always important to just point out where we are. So that brings me to any questions about the 4-month, 5-monthly fiscal report.
Do any of my fellow directors have questions for Mr. O'Toole? None. Well, I appreciate that, Mr. O'Toole. It was very thorough and good information. And you are right, the CERT funding is extremely important to all of us. So I appreciate the detail on that one as well. So thanks again.
Very welcome.
Now, our next meeting will be on February 24th. Director Jones?
No, go ahead. I just want to make some comments when you're done, Chair.
I'm wrapping up, so go ahead and say your piece.
Okay, no, thank you. This reflects some discussion I had with about some numbers with CFO O'Toole and what's going through the different budget lines and so on. And in addition to what's in our packet, I just wanted to, for the public record, to let folks know, and Dave, correct me if I'm misinterpreting the information you sent me, but I asked him about what are the increase in our costs are going to be for retirement and healthcare, basically all the benefits, so that we have an idea how much our costs are increasing, regardless of whatever else happens in the world. These are going to be fixed increases. And Dave, I came up with almost a $5 million increase just in the PERS safety from 39.
That was the increase from past year to current year. Yeah.
Right. Past year to current year. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's about 5 million. That's up about 5 million. All retirement costs are up about 5.25 million. Our health insurance has gone up. $800,000 or so, just for active employees. It's gone up a couple $100,000 for retirees, and our benefit cost with CERB and et cetera. That's only gone up 100,000, only 100. But then our total benefits, the total benefits look like they're up about 33, about $1.25 million. And I just want this committee and anyone in the public attending to understand these are real costs to the district that are ongoing and they are increasing. So add that up and that's a lot of money. So I'd just like to get that on the record. Thank you.
I do appreciate that, Director. Any other comments or questions before we move forward? All right, hearing none, our next meeting will be February 24, 2022. Expected action and presentation items can be directed to the clerk and or Mr. Orzali. For that, we'll wrap up and adjourn this meeting for now. Thank you all.
Thank you.